Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, creatives of all ages, to the Maxon booth. I am Matthias, aka Major VFX on all the social stuff. I am here accompanied by amazing artists presenting how they use Maxon One products in their workflow to create some of the most beautiful things you've seen throughout our demo reel and everywhere else. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, we are live in person for the first time in a long time at the 3dmotionshow.com. If you haven't checked us out there, check out 3dmotionshow.com. Sign up. We're giving away thousands of dollars of prizes at the end of the season, so definitely check that out. And we'll be keeping you informed of all of the things, like all the different trainings we do from ZBrush Live and everything else. But next up, first time doing a live presentation with us, but she's presented with us on the show before. A big warm welcome for Sasha Vinogradova.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vinogradova. I'm art director and digital artist. You might remember me from 2020 NAB show where I was showing you how to set up the scene. Couple words about myself. You can find my work at sashavinogradova.com or my Instagram, Milamori. My reel is this.
Shake it up, stop when the clock hits 13. You've been working, but you're flirting with the weekend. You can freak out. 1 in a million. You're a gem shine when the light grows dim. Sing 1, 2, 3, 4. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. We got the right stuff. We put the hammer right down. Wanna be like us? You better stick around. If you want it, you gotta prove it. Like we do it, like we do it. Room with your hips and break it down. Stop when the clock hits 13. You've been learning and you're earning all of those hours. You can freak out. 1 in a million. Gonna shine bright and you never go dim. Singing 1, 2, 3, 4. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it, like we do it.
Cool. So, as you saw, I do key art for movies and TV shows. I do lots of fantasy book covers. I do motion graphics. One of the most recent and ongoing project is this jewel insect collection. And I used to work full-time in key art. Then I used to work as an art director in Milalay. And then for the last 2 years, I worked at Apple as an art director in their Apple TV department. That was super fun, super cool. But for the last 4 months, I've been working in Parallel NFT, which is a sci-fi card game. This is sort of artwork I do for them, which you can see is mostly character-based sci-fi artwork. And first, when they approached me, I was kind of skeptical because, you know, NFT. But then I spoke to my now creative director, and he shared his vision with me, which was really compelling. We talked about that art should have a strong composition, less is more, negative spaces, cinematic close-ups, crowds and groups, and textures and materials, and it all has to have characters with character. And plus, the lore of the game was very compelling. It's pretty much Earth collapsed, and we are far, far, far ahead in years, and humans survived by different means and form different parallels, almost like races. And so there are different parallels, Earthen, Cathari, Ugankar, I never can say it right. Markolian, and Shroud. So pretty much that's what I do now. This is my full-time job, which is amazing. And a couple words about the process, how it works. I get writing from the writers from the game, and this is pretty much, that's it. That's the writing. They do not tell me how it's supposed to look like. It's up to me. So it's full creative freedom visually. And this is some work in progress in terms of how those cards happen to be. And I wanted to share with you my character design workflow breakdown. For this presentation, I created this sort of simplify scene where I go through my process step by step, where I start with Daz. Daz is a free software which allows you to create characters, and it's super, super awesome, but sometimes you want to make it more unique, more bespoke, and that's where ZBrush comes along. We will be creating custom morph for that character. Then I'll show you how to prepare that character for Marvelous Designer, how to create animation so you can simulate your fabric and garments to a certain pose. And then I'll walk you through Cinema 4D workflow and how to set up render with Redshift. So let's start. Here's Daz. It's very awesome software, but UI is kind of like tricky. You never know where things are. So in order to create our character, I go to Content Library, then Daz Studio, and then I find People. And I'm going to grab Genesis 8 Female 8.1 Basic Female. So if you never tried Daz before, it's awesome because it comes completely rigged. And you can do, like, you can pose the character, you can, it's a great base and shortcut for your workflow. So let's restore the character. And for those of you who have been doing CG for quite some time, you probably saw this particular face so many freaking times. So in order to avoid it, let's make it more unique, more bespoke, and we will create a custom morph. So in order to create custom morph, let's delete eyelashes and tear. Let's go to parameters, click on the character, and find our subdivision level, and bring it all the way to 0. Now we're going to export the character. There is actually a bridge to the ZBrush, but sometimes it doesn't work for me, so I'm just going to show the brute force way. You save it as a wireframe object, and here I have it as GF8 base 01. So then you're going to open ZBrush. I love ZBrush, it's great. And you're going to bring this as your new tool. So ZBrush and nope, not like tool, not tool. Import as OBJ. So you need to bring the character, and don't forget to click Edit. I'm moving around holding Alt and left mouse click. Don't forget to turn your symmetry, which is X. So now whatever you do, it's symmetrical. I also recommend using Shift to snap to a certain viewport. And to modify this character, I'm going to use Move Brush, which is you can find by clicking B, which is brushes, and M, move. And I prefer to bring reference for my work, so I'm going to find that reference and put it behind my screen. There is this see-through option, which is awesome. So just going to align my face with my head. I'm so terrified. I think shouldn't place microphone where I did. Okay, so you can control your size of your mouse by like the hotkey of the I don't know how to call this, like the square brackets. Let's start sculpting. So you can just align your character with your reference. I usually have two screens. I like having my reference also on my second screen. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just sort of creating approximate proportions. And then when you're happy with your face, you can start adjusting your general proportions. I'm going with a little bit like stylized look, so taking it away from the from realistic proportions. And what's really cool about this morph workflow, you can change the height, you can change proportions quite a bit. Daz will know it, and it will know where elbows are and knees are and all this stuff. So this is general workflow. Let me bring in my actually already modified figure. So that's where I landed. You want to save it as expert. I saved it as just edit ZBrush in the end. And I'm jumping back to my Daz. So I'm opening Daz and click on your figure, go to Edit, Figure, and Morph Loader Pro. Here, I'm going to choose my morph, click Accept. It says it's done. And in Parameters, you'll find this new tab which just appeared called Morph. And now your character has this morph option. So as you can see, it's rigged. It's working just fine, but now it doesn't look like your standard Genesis 8 female. Also super cool, you can save this morph later, but I'm not going to go through it right now. So let's continue with this. I'm going to bring back my mesh resolution, which is Parameters, Genesis, and I'm going to do 3 and 4. And I'm going to bring more characters, character blends, into my character. Usually you would not have this. You need to buy it separately. I strongly recommend it. It's awesome. So for example, let's see this hand. Doesn't look like much right now, but if you click on the full HD details, the sculpting appeared. The collarbones appeared. Like, it's such a time saver. And you can bring this into ZBrush, sculpt more details. You can grab it as normal map or displace map for your final model, and it all works just fine and great. And for the full body, I'm going to bring a little bit of, sorry, run. OK. So this is my character. I'm going to bring back eyelashes and tear. You can click here and go to anatomy and add tear and eyelashes. So now let's talk about posing. As you can see, posing is very simple in ZBrush. This is one of the easiest tools to move. You can just click on any part of your character and click on that sphere and pose the part of the character the way you want. You can control it individually by those separate axes. Also, when it comes to hands, it's a special pain because it has so many bones, and you can click on the hand itself, go to posing, click on left hand, right hand, depending on what you're working on, and there are some controllers controlling the full hand. And in order to restore your character, you can click Restore Figure Pose. And if you want to restore only part of your character, you can click on your part you want to restore, right-click it, say select children, select, oh my god, select children, and click in here and say restore selected items pose. So, and it will come back to T-pose. I also love using this pose, which is active pose tool, which allows you to just drag parts of your character the way you want. And sometimes, you pose your head and you don't want it to move, but you want to adjust the arm. So that's where pin tool comes handy. So you can pin certain parts of your character. In order to set it up, you want to click F3 and find Power Pose. On Power Pose, you want to right-click it here, change shortcut, and click spacebar or any shortcut you want. And click Apply. Oh, except, I don't know. So that's the way you control full body. I also recommend giving your character some expression. You can do that by clicking Window, Panels, and Power Pose. This is, by the way, another way to control your character. But here I'm going to click on the face, and you can. So you can adjust your eyes in here. Yeah. Also, if you click on posing on your head and click on the head, there are some expressions in here. So I can adjust and mix different expressions. And then when you're done with your pose, you're happy with that. The cool thing, you can save it. You can save the pose and use it later. So I'm going to my poses. I will create subfolder, which is like test or whatever. And here I'm going to create preset, pose preset, and call it test. So now, even when I start completely from scratch and it's new character, so let's restore it, you can apply this pose again. And there are a whole bunch of poses which comes with Daz, and you can bring more, and it just does the pose. It's great. So pose I did earlier for this project is this one. And I want to talk to you about creating an animation from T-pose to our final pose, because when we're going to bring it into Marvelous Designer, we want to simulate our clothes. You want to create your clothes on the T-pose, and then you want to bring it into the pose you're working with, so your clothes matches. To do that, you want to open Timeline, click on your character, restore your character to the T-pose. So click here, say Restore Figure, and add a keyframe. Then you want to bring it to the last frame, click on your pose, and add keyframe. So, and now we have an animation. So now you can just export it as FBX or Collada, whatever file holds the animation. And you can bring it into your Marvelous Designer files and do your clothes. So I pre-recorded this part. Pretty much you bring your character. As you see, I created garments on T-pose. It's low resolution garments at this point. I had some parts frozen, so I'm activating it back. And then I'm going to go to animation mode and clicking play. And so my character moves from T-pose to my final pose. One thing to remember, when you export characters from Daz, FBX always has less details than OBJ, so I would bring this as FBX, but then when my simulation is complete, I'm going to bring OBJ with all the morphs. But when you finally in your character is in the final pose, you can go into more details on your clothes, bring higher resolution, more wrinkles, more details. So yeah, I wish I was that fast in Marvelous Designer. And then when you're done, you export every garment separately. And we will see how to set it up in C4D in a second. So yeah, that's the final garments. Super cool. Marvelous Designer is really fun. Couple more things we need to do with our character before we jump into C4D. So you set up the pose. I'm going to bring hair. I'm going to bring standard Daz hair, but again, there's a huge Daz library. Take advantage of that. And I also have some accessories I bought earlier, glasses, and then I'm going to export it as OBJ. Nothing crazy. As I mentioned earlier, when you bring it as FBX, some morphs, you lose some morphs. Your resolution and details are not as great. So I prefer to save it as FBX as OBJ if I don't need to do any animation on it. Okay, so now we are in Cinema. I'm going to open my file, which is not Travis's files. Okay, so I already set everything up in here. This is where I'm going with this. I'm loading it. We'll wait for a second. Okay. It's getting there, guys. I'm just, the scale could be smaller. So this is our final look, but let me walk you through how to set up every part separately. So I'm going to switch to the clay mode, so we do not see any textures. I'm going to remove the bokeh tag from my camera for now, and I'm going to unhide. My current figure, which I already finished, and I'm going to bring the figure I'm going to work with. So, as you can see, I just brought everything from Daz and from Marvelous, so I have all those elements. So first of all, let's take a look at the lighting setup. It's nothing crazy, it's just HDRI and a bunch of area lights. So the dome light, if I'm going to turn off all my extra things I did. So I'm going to reset to default. As you can see, it's just HDRI of Night City, which I got from textures.com. And I am adjusting my hue shift and my exposure to make it more colorful. And it will look great with bokeh camera. So that's the HDRI setup. And then I have those area lights, which is pretty much area lights with some color in it. That is without it, with it. So when you're done with your light, you want to work on your character. So Daz2D-Cinema is a little tricky. The materials are just nuts. So when you take a look at your character, I'm going to turn off my browser, my render at the moment, and I'm going to switch to I'm going to switch to my UV. I'm sorry, this is, I'm trying to. BP UV edit. UV edit. Oh, sorry, I'm blanking out a little bit. So when you go to your UV edit and click on your figure, you see it has Udims. What are Udims? Let's say you have very complex object and you want very high fidelity textures on it. But you don't want like 30,000 polygons texture. That's where Udim comes in play, and it means your object has multiple UV tiles. So here, any character from Daz comes with multiple of those UV tiles. We see this is face, head, body, legs, arms, mouth, and eyes. So in order to set up it correctly, let's find our Daz texture first. It's tricky too. So you go to your Daz. You can click on any asset and right-click it and say browse to file location. Here is your Daz library. You jump back a little bit to my Daz library and go to runtime. That's where all the textures are stored. You click it here. Textures, Daz, characters, Genesis 8.1, and female or male, depending on what you're working with. By the way, every time you buy characters from Daz, that's where all the textures stored. So it's sometimes hard to find, but it's there. And here where some extra work comes in, which is boring, but it's good. Like when you do it once, you can reuse it over and over again, and setting up Daz characters will be just super easy. You want to grab all your textures. So you want to find all those textures, face, head, body, and they kind of stored in different folders. Like here, for example, you're missing like hand and legs, and here for some reason there is no mouth. So you find it all, bring it into a separate folder, and then you want to rename it. Like here, when you see anything like 1003, 1004, it means those textures probably coming from a model which has Udims. But I don't know why. For some reason here, like you see our legs are on the 4th tile, but here our legs is 1003. This is wrong. So this is probably fine the way Daz works, but in order to set it up for Redshift, you want to bring it all in one folder and rename it according to your tiles. And here you see it has to have the same name, so I just rename it into G8 and then 1001, 1002, and so on. And I did the same for my bump textures and for my subsurface textures. So when it's done, this is annoying, but when it's done, you're happy, you can finally set up your materials. So you go to the I am going to my layout, which is this one. So you get to your scene, and you see all this mess of materials. So you right-click it and say, delete duplicated materials. And now you need to detect what materials actually is this character material. So I did it many times, so I know. I'm going to merge it all in one. So I know head, toenails, irises, sclera. Cornea is actually transparent, so it's a different materials. Fingernail, pupils, arms. So I'm just merging it all in the same material. And not to freak out any renders, I'm going to create placeholder material for my garments, then glasses, and I'm going to hide hair for now because that is a different story. I'll show how to set it up in a second. So you have, and I'm going to create another material for my character. So this is my now. Sorry, I'm freaking out. Redshift material. Cool. So you go to use. I just substitute my character material with this Redshift material, and let's see. It's all glowing, so fine. I'm going to remove blooms. Let's take a look at the skin material. So now, I'm going to bring my Udim textures. So I'm going to click on here, texture, and loading. Loading the texture. So bring it straight to the surface. And right away, as you can see, our texture is just weird. Like, it's duplicated multiple times, and we see arrow in here, and here, and here. It's just because it doesn't know that it's Udim yet. So you select the number and type Udim. Click Enter. And now, as you can see, our textures are complete. So, like, everything works just right, and it's only one material for entire character, so you don't have to set it up all separately a million times over and over again. So, I'm going to substitute it with the material I created earlier. So, let's take a look at that material. I'm also going to turn on actually, it's pretty fast, so it's fine. I'll create a dome light just so we see better what's happening. So this is my skin material. I use a Redshift skin, and here, this is my diffuse texture, this is my subsurface texture, and this is my bump texture. So let's go through it one by one. So first of all, I'll set up my, okay, we don't need this. You want to set up your scale to 1, overall scale to 1. This way, it's much easier to control what's happening. And when you go to the scatter layers, you can understand better the radius. So when it comes to radius of the ray penetration in the surface, it's actually like 0.3 centimeters, 0.15 centimeters, 2 centimeters. So it's more realistic. If you're not familiar with the skin material, it's pretty much 3 subsurface textures going into a different depth in your material. So this is my this is, you remember the diffuse texture I had. My very shallow layer is, don't be, okay, no, this is my actually shallow layer. As you can see, it's crazy green. It's only this very thin skin layer on the very top. Then we have more neutral looking skin for meat scattering, and then we have more reddish sort of meat-like color for my deep scattering. Oh, and it freaks out a little bit. But pretty much, let me show you show it to you separately. When you turn off so I'm removing weight from each from shallow and meat scatter. So this is only deep scatter. So you see the red comes from that part, and then my meat scatter brings this neutral color, and then my shallow scatter brings this just pale sort of very, very top layer of skin. And I also wanted to talk about this little texture in here, which I applied as weight for my shallow scattering. I pretty much mix in my subsurface texture, which comes from Daz. I feed it through ramp, which makes it super contrasty, so we can see all the veins and details. Not this one, sorry. And then I'm blending it with a curvature map, which allows me to remove ears, nose, lips from my shallow scatter values. So those areas look more red. And just wanted to show you guys this, how my character looks without. So, waiting. I'm going to take a screen grab into my picture viewer of this. And now I'm going to apply the map I just created for the shallow scattering, which is shallow scatter weight. Takes time, sorry. And I also didn't set it up the radius. That's what's happening. Sorry. OK, so you immediately see the difference. It's like here you had just more of the same tone everywhere. And here you have a little bit of this splotchiness and realism. And the nose is more red. You have more redness on your cheeks and other parts. So this is how I set up skin material, and when I need to bring new Daz character, I just drop this skin material, and it's super easy. So I wanted to talk about the fabrics now. Fabrics were easy to set up. I'm just going to apply, which one is the jacket? This is the jacket. Actually, I'm just going to hide this character at this point and bring back my character I already did. So this is the jacket material, which is just the normal texture, normal map texture fed to triplanar, fed to bump map with a tangent space normal, and that creates the nice leather-like bump. And then I have the noise texture, fed into triplanar and fed into input where I control my roughness. So my roughness range jumps from 0.4 to 0.6 roughness. And I feed it into roughness. And this is kind of like, there are many ways to control it, but pretty much anything black was clean and glossy, and everything white is rough. So if I want to make it more extreme, I can switch it from 0 to 1, and you can see the roughness coming through. So I don't need that. I don't need this to be so extreme, so I'm going to bring it back to 0.4 and 0.6. So now let's take a look at the top. Going to go back to my camera. So the top is really just metal-like material, and I'm feeding normal map with a triplanar. And the same goes to pens. So it's just the metallic material with a texture and bump going through. So I think materials are mostly set up. I just wanted to talk about how to set up hair. Let's go back to the scene, So here you already see final result. To set up hair, I'm going to take my hair I brought from Daz. And you can find textures for that hair and do just bunch of opacity maps. But I wanted to actually use hair splines to make it more realistic. So what I did, I have this edge selection where you can just double click on your strands of hair and select those edges. You don't want to go crazy, because if you see what I do later, I have to position them in the same direction, and it's tedious. So let's say you're happy with that. You want to set it. You want to save that selection, and you want to turn it into splines. So in order to do that, you want to use edge to spline. So as you can see, our splines appeared in here. And now you want to organize them. As you can see, some of them going in one direction, some in another direction, some go all the way through. So I want to break splines which go all the way through. Click on them and right-click and break segment. And then I want to select every hair which goes in a wrong direction. So anything blue you want to grab. And right-click it and say point order, reverse sequence. So you might find a couple which are not facing right direction. So do it again. OK, so now your splines are ready. What you want to do next, you want to create hair. So add hair. And you want to use those splines as your guides. So you want to switch it to spline guides. Boost up your segments, so 120. And I'm going to go to actual gray hair cloning, and I'm going to add cloners, let's say 300. I want to do 0 on roots, so around the root, all hair comes from the same point, but around the tip, it kind of goes a little crazy, and so it looks like there are more hair than it is. And you want to adjust this tag in here. So if I render it now, it's going to look crazy because thickness is 1 centimeter and it's huge. So so that's hair. I'm going to just apply the hair I already created earlier. So as you can see here, I just added a little bit length variation, kink, clump, bend, curl. And when I'm turning on my light, and actually going to turn on my character, one thing you want to make sure when you set up your hair, especially when you have scene like this with some backlighting, you want to make sure that your hair has backlight in your settings. So when you're going to set up your hair, you want to make sure that your backlight and translucency is has some value in it. So I'm going to apply this hair into my hair material, and you'll see that we actually have this nice shine through the hair. So we're almost done. I want to talk about sunglasses. So I applied this regular refraction material to sunglasses, but in order to have this nice extra light on it, I created a rest area light with the image in here. This is just this neon-looking light, and I brought my sunglasses as the only object affected by this light. So we have nice, cool reflection. And the very final touches you need to do is to set up your camera. Pretty much in my camera, I turn on my bokeh. I use this. You can use this tool here to set up your focus. I also changed the aspect of my bokeh so it's a little bit elongated and looks like ellipse. And I added a little bit of bloom. So this is sort of the final render. I'm going to turn on the video of that. So this is already pre-rendered. And I also, if it's only static, I like to just paint it over a little bit. So yeah, that is a final setup. I hope you find it helpful. Thank you. 48 minutes. How about that?
Pretty good. Professional. That's what it is. She's a professional, folks. So, hey, my mic's back. All right, so thank you so much. So many good things there. I love the character workflow. We did have some questions, but we prioritized the audience first. So for everybody here, questions. You did such a good job. Look at that. Everybody's just like, we know it all now. All right, so I'm expecting to see everybody turn out a character in the next hour. No, because we have another presenter coming up. But we do have some questions online. Somebody was wondering, where do we find all the close patterns for Marvelous? So the different patterns, is that all generated? Or what did you do for all the different textures and patterns?
There are so many patterns actually on internet. You just find them and you recreate them. Marvelous Designer is very much like making garments in real life. You just play around with shapes till it looks right, or you just literally go and Google pattern for pants, and you just draw it.
just build the actual pattern.
Yep.
Yeah, so just do it like you were going to make the clothes.
Yep.
That's it. It's the same thing, you're just doing it in 3D. So somebody was wondering about hair from Daz. Does it come in as splines, but you just showed that workflow? So hopefully you paid attention, please. Just pay attention. It's in there. So if not, just rewind it if you missed that. And then once again, the same question is, how do you do the hair? I only see splines in the viewport. So as far as make sure your hair is turned on, as far as in your viewport settings, make sure that's turned on, because you can turn off generators, you can turn off hair, you can do all that. So that's all in the viewport. So yeah, check that out. So any other questions? If not, Sasha will be around for another hour in the back, so you can answer and chat with her on her process or anything else creative, all of her amazing work. And yeah, stay tuned. Our next presenter will be up here in the next 5-10 minutes. We have Brian Coleman, so stay tuned.
Brian.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.